I would get that ice layer on the top of it. You step into it as a kid, you know, that little crunch and go right down into it. So.
We have one of those somewhere. Bought the kids one not that long ago. Oh gosh, well, probably 10 years ago now, but
you get a lot more snow because of lake effect over there. So
yeah, we get crazy lake effect snows here in Western New York. But it looks like all of our streaming has caught up with us. So welcome to Powered by Authenticity. We're on a live recording tonight, and we have some very cool guests who are welcomed back. So repeat guests. And Ken and I did some research. It's been almost 2 years since we've had you on the show, which seems like yesterday, but forever ago, all at the same time.
Time flies.
So it really does. Oh my gosh. So we want to welcome back to the podcast, Art and Mairead. Hey guys, how's it going tonight?
Going pretty good.
Hello
again.
Emily.
A long day of work to have a nice little discussion about work. No, actually, nice little discussion about AI and other things like that.
Talking shop.
Going to talk a little AI tonight. And it's so funny. I've let people know what the subject is tonight. And it's been an interesting feedback. Some people are super excited, like, oh, I can't wait to hear it. And other people are like, I'm so afraid of what it's going to do. So it's just across the board, you know, such an interesting topic right now. So as we start to get into it, first, I'd love for you to introduce yourselves again to our audience.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Art Pugach, co-host of the When in Doubt Reboot podcast. I'm also Q Associates Global Chief Technology Officer, and I am an MVP in Microsoft 365 Copilot.
Awesome. All right.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mairead O'Donovan, also another co-host of the When in Doubt Reboot podcast, and then a wonderful member of the Q Associates crew. I'm a project coordinator here at Q, so it's 3.5 years I've been at Q so far. So it's been a fun time, and I've really enjoyed getting into and learning more about the technology sphere industry. Something I never would have thought I'd be here. So.
Mm-hmm. That is awesome. And you guys are in New Jersey, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yeah, whereabouts?
Well, we're in northern New Jersey. Mairead's in Jersey City, and I'm in England, literally 5 minutes from the George Washington Bridge.
All right, awesome. Well, fantastic. Well, welcome back. I'm so glad that you agreed to do this show with me tonight and address this topic, because I think it's top of mind for everybody in 2026. But as you know, we like to do a little bit of an icebreaker on the show. Love to talk about food. We think food's a great connector. So question for you. You're going to your local pizzeria. What's your order?
Go ahead,
Sadly, the place up the street, it's called Larry and Joe's, and they sadly do not do pineapple on pizza. And I know that it can be it's a controversial topic. It's not always AI. for people's mental health, the mention of pineapple can be AI. I don't mind it sometimes, and I know people can find it sacrilegious. The place up the street does not do it. They don't allow it. So I'll usually do like a pepperoni, like 2 pepperoni slices, or like a slice of pepperoni, and then just a plain Jane, like margarita or just a regular cheese.
That's good though.
And I don't mind dipping. I like a bit of ranch to dip the crust. I think it's too much when you enjoy the flavor of the pizza anyway. You don't need to. The crust can be dry sometimes. I don't know. I know some people don't like this ranch anywhere near it, but
you got to try blue cheese on that.
Oh, I'm more of a blue cheese girl. More blue cheese. Thank you, Emily. I feel seen.
Buffalo heart right here.
Absolutely. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Art, how about yourself?
I got to be honest with you, I don't order pizza that much, but when I do order it, I typically will get mushrooms on it. So,
nice.
Typically I'll have pizza when my nieces are here. They're in California, so it's not every day. So, they typically will have it plain, but I typically like it with mushrooms. If I can convince them to put something on it, or my sister will get the half with mushrooms or something on it, or vegetables on it. They'll get the, but that's had a lot of pizza though over the holidays, because they were here. They typically are here every December and early January before they head back to the coast. So some good stuff.
Well, and holiday calories don't count. so it's a perfect time to order.
That's what they tell me. That's what they tell me, especially in Buffalo when the team's in the playoffs, right?
That's right. All bets are off then.
The question I have for you, we were talking before we went on air about all the snow and the ice and everything. In the new Buffalo Bills stadium, which is opening next year, are they going to have heated seats for all the people in attendance?
Yep, there'll be more heated seats. So no more just the poor sections with the little heaters above them, but there are going to be more heated seats, and the stadium is beautiful. But it is funny when you go there. Right now, you've got the old stadium, but it looks like the new stadium just could, consume it. It just is massive compared to the old one. So.
These new stadiums are very massive. I always think about the images they show where what is it in Houston, where you see the new stadium base has now been there for 20 years, right next to 20 plus years, next to the Astrodome. And the Astrodome being the eighth wonder of the world, and everyone thinking it's so big, and it's so tiny compared to the new stadium. It's absolutely incredible how technology changes things. Which I guess leads into the whole idea of AI. How is AI going to change things? So,
yeah.
You're going to give you a segue there, Emily.
All right. Well, first we got to check in with Ken. What are you ordering with pizza or at the pizza place?
Oh, I have to move way past pineapple. There's a dent on my keyboard back here from thinking about pineapple on pizza. But
sorry to trigger. Sorry.
I go with a good smattering of veggies and anchovies. I love anchovies on pizza. Classic.
I've never tried it, so I don't want to knock it, but that's
definitely
two opposite ends.
And if you want to just dip your toe in, you can always order a Caesar salad that has the anchovies on it as well.
Fair.
There you go.
If you don't like it, you can pick it off, or you can just eat it with it. But typically,
and you have
if you're not too sure about the anchovies themselves, you can get them on half. Usually, there's still a little flavor on the other half, so it just it's a way of, as he said, dipping your toe in to the flavor a little bit.
Fabulous.
And let me just be clear, he does not get that from me.
Yeah, I was going to ask. But so Emily, what is your go-to? And
my go-to, I like cheese, pepperoni, and mushrooms, but as many green olives as they can get on that pizza, the best. I just love this one.
It's funny. I had a discussion with my sister the other day about it. I said how much I wish I really liked olives, because I love veggie pizzas, but I'm not a big olive person. But the good thing, you put the vegetables on it, you don't really taste the olives, but certainly I do understand.
It's the salt. Yeah. Oh, bless you. All right. So let's talk about Q Associates and the work that you guys do there. So just high level, day to day, what's it look like at Q Associates today?
Everything's moving very fast. We're growing very fast. In fact, today we just set up Q Associates Italy. So we keep opening up more and more entities. So we're growing. So big things going on. Certainly we're doing, a lot of Dynamics migrations, and Mairead and I were talking about it before. One of the things is a lot of the on-premise Dynamics products, or a lot of them are going end of life, pushing to the cloud. So we're helping clients with a lot of cloud migrations. We're also pushing more into the managed services environment, managed services provider area as well. One of the reasons why we're doing that is because we have more and more customers as they move to the cloud with one product. They're thinking about moving to the cloud with other product, and they're thinking, hey, maybe we can have someone out there that can assist us, look at security items, and do things like that for us. It's also where AI comes in a little bit as well. One of the things I mentioned before, Microsoft MVP in Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot, which means we're doing a lot of discussions about AI. Recently, I've been doing a number of workshops, and since I've become an MVP, I've done a lot of volunteering. I volunteered at the Microsoft AI Tour last month. I was a judge at the Imagine Cup. And actually next month I'm going to my first MVP summit in Seattle, or I guess in Redmond. So I'm looking forward to going to visit the mothership for the first time. So
racking up miles. Art's flying all over the place doing tour, or maybe not flying all over the place.
It's true. I did present. I did my first overseas presentation in Toronto last year. Looking forward to do potentially additional presentations, either in Europe or in APAC, Asia Pacific. And I did presentations in Florida and California, so I've gone coast to coast on this sort of stuff. So it's a lot of fun. I look forward to doing it more, and I look forward to doing the workshops more, because there's a lot of things about Copilot and just an AI in general, I think that worry people. And I think you have to, like on our podcast where I like to demystify tech, I think, demystifying AI is also a big thing as well.
Yep, I agree. So have you never been to the Microsoft campus in Redmond?
I've been to Bellevue twice, but both times for bat mitzvahs, but I've not been there for tech or anything like that. So, and actually, the odd thing about it is I've never actually been to downtown Seattle. So I've never been to the Space Needle or the Science Fiction Museum or other fun things there. But hoping maybe this time I can join some MVPs for some fun.
That's so cool. Fun fact, I went to Microsoft right before the world shut down. So I was on the Microsoft campus as they started to shut it down. We were the last conference. I was there for a healthcare forum and how they were adopting teams in healthcare. So they flew us out there, and it was literally the world was shutting down as we were leaving Seattle. So it's pretty interesting. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But all right, so let's talk about AI. Where do you guys think you see the most growth happening in 2026? I always say that I think AI is best served, especially when you're starting to learn about figuring out what some of those repeatable tasks are and some of those business problems where you can put tech to help solve that. But what do you guys think? What is your perspective on growth in 2026 for AI?
Well, the big news is about agentic AI and using multi-agentic AI. I don't necessarily know if that's where the big growth is going to be with it. It's interesting to me. One of the things that came across at the AI tour, I'm talking with different individuals, different companies. There are two things that are very clear about the adoption of AI. Number one, and also doing workshops, is that people may purchase it, but they don't necessarily use it. So I think one of the big things, number one, I've noticed with AI, it's like any technology, it seems like people buy a piece of technology thinking it's going to solve a whole bunch of problems, but they don't know what the problems are looking for it to solve. And one of the cool things that I gave one of these sets to Mairead last week or the week before is Microsoft was handing out a deck of cards, and on each deck of cards they had something to try, and on each card they had something to try to ask Copilot to do, whether it was a use case or another thing. So I think one of the big things that's going to come up, and it's going to come up years, is as far as the workshops goes, a lot of gamification of AI. But I think also the big thing is a lot of, in order to show people how to use it, but I think there's also a lot of workshops that are going to be coming up as well. One of the big things that was mentioned to me, not just about the use case, but people who had started working with AI, is that they expected more from it. So they actually were sort of surprised, going like, hey, so I have this great thing called Copilot Studio. I should just be able to tell it what to do, and it should just come up with this fantastic agent for me. And then realize, no, wait, there's some human interaction into it. Wait, there's actually some programming that needs to be done. Wait, and so there's this whole sort of thing where there's this assumption that AI is going to do all of this stuff. And one of the things, I'll say this. So I was watching the Super Bowl, and we watched the ads for the Super Bowl. And I know the Microsoft ad didn't make a big splash like a lot of some of the other AI ads, where it goes something like, you're going to have an AI advertised in the middle of your session chatting with AI, or AI is going to take over the world, or AI is going to do this and that. The Microsoft ad was simply, the NFL Combine. And essentially what it was one of the scouts going into an Excel document saying, hey, can you manipulate these numbers for me? And can you and can you get me this information out of this all this data that I have in this spreadsheet?
But it seemed like it was more than just, like the numbers. It was asking like leadership skills, like, analyze the notes. So it gave it a bit more, it was not as surface level, I guess.
But again, the idea and the reason why I liked it, because it was actually was showing a use case where it was saying, okay, what can it do for you? So what would happen previously is, let's say you had an agent with like 15 spreadsheets, or a scout going like, okay, I got to read through this thing. It's going to take several hours, maybe several days. Now I can use an assistant like Copilot, or formerly maybe they would have given it to an assistant that would have taken 15 days. Now they give it to a virtual assistant like Copilot, and they can get information out in a few minutes. And so something like that, saying, hey, it's not replacing me here, but it's helping me with my work. And it's working like an assistant does to get me information that I want. that's one of the key things. So one of the big things I talk about in the workshop is how can it enhance your work? Because I don't look at AI as being a replacement. I really don't. I look at AI as being an assistant. And with any assistant, whether it's human or virtual, you get out of it what you ask it or what you put into it. And that's why I talk a lot about prompts. I know I'm getting a little bit off the topic where AI is going this year,
love it.
but I think one of the big things for AI and for AI to be successful is education. Because as cool as a lot of these agents are, a lot of the agents that are going to be out there are going to be things that are going to be available or made by companies that are specializing in it, whether it's Q Associates building an agent, let's say specifically for Dynamics 365 to help out our finance or our customer engagement clients, or so forth. But there will be some, certainly some cases in which we will create certain things. But I think the big thing is really just trying to say, hey, let's get the licensing out there. Let's get Copilot out there just from that point of view. And let's show people how to use it. Let's give them ideas on how to use it. Because one of the things that people are is they're scared. They're scared thinking like, is AI going to take over the world? Well, no, AI is not going to take over the world. Is AI there to replace us? No, AI isn't there to replace us. It's there to help us. And AI doesn't have an agenda. I think we all think about science fiction where AI has some sort of, something, it's judging us or it's thinking something about humanity and that sort of stuff like that. So I said to people, I'm not worried about AI. AI I'm absolutely fine with. You want to be worried about someone, be worried about human beings. Because there possibly could be a human being out there that can use AI to do something bad, but it won't be the AI itself that does it.
Yeah, agree. I had that was at church probably about 6-8 weeks ago, maybe a little bit longer. And there was 2 older gentlemen sitting in front of me, and they decided that they wanted to talk about AI. And the one gentleman's perspective was that he will no longer have a primary care physician. He will only have AI, and the only time he will see a doctor is if he needs surgery. And no matter how much you could try to change that perspective, it was just, they had it in their brains. And I'm like, but you always need a human for care. There's always going, the AI is going to help with predictive analysis and diagnosis and ways to, cordon off what could be another disease state, but you still need the human and that connection. So to your point, Art, it's like, we need people to understand and have the education that it's not taking away human, it's helping to support the human as you said, like in an assistant capacity.
Well, as you were mentioning, like with a doctor or something like that, the way I look at AI is being an advanced version, at least from a medical perspective, of an advanced version of WebMD. It might direct you, it might give you ideas, and might give you good questions to ask your doctor. But at the end of the day, the person you need to speak to is your doctor. You have to remember, AI, like human beings, can make mistakes. You want to talk with someone who's put in the 10,000 hours. And right now, the way I look at AI is, and it's funny because some of the conferences we talk about this, I remember I said I like trying to look at AI as being sort of like at the moment being like in toddler phase, where like it's it's starting to walk around, it's in the terrible twos or maybe getting about. And some other people were saying, it doesn't even know how to crawl yet. So it was very interesting. I was one of the more optimistic people when it came to it. And I think the expectation of AI has been like, oh, AI is a fairly mature 35-year-old person, can do things and can think that way. And it really can't. It's not there yet. And I think that's one of the big misconceptions is, and a lot of the advertising is promising that AI can do all of these things. And what people are finally getting into are going like, wait a minute, where are these big promises? Well, that's what advertisers are paid to do. What we're paid to do is to actually show you what it can do and show you how it can help you. We can show you how it can help you in Excel. We can show you in Teams how it can do your meeting notes. One of the things I was talking with Mairead before, I remember when I was an intern or a production system 30 plus years ago, I was working on a documentary and they said, okay, we need you to go ahead and transcribe it. What that was putting in a cassette tape into a deck, going onto a Macintosh, spending an hour or 2 typing in what the people had said on it. Look at a Teams meeting, right? You have instant transcription now. Everything's transcribed for you. It takes all your notes together, it puts everything together. So a project coordinator like Mairead, when she's done with her call, she's got everything out there to follow-ups and everything else like that. It's that to me is like a powerful tool. You're saving so much time at that point. You're giving the notes to people. And one of the other cool things They keep adding things to it. So one of the things I showed people about a month ago or so was how you can click a button and it will even give you a video summary, or it'll even create a podcast summary like what we're doing right now, but with, the virtual voice and the highlights of the meeting. So, and people find that to be really cool. I mean, really convenient. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think it's going to put podcasters out of business. In the same way, I don't think it's going to put actors out of business either. It was one of the other things. I mean, they were talking about ByteDance and how the entertainment industry is really worried. The one thing I will say of having watched some of these AI things is they can give a performance, yes, but it's always the same performance. They can't give the human nuance. They can't do things that human beings can do. They can try to replicate. They can try to impersonate, but they really are, they aren't. It's not the same thing. And the thing about it is, it's like with remember back when something like, what was it? The Zemeckis film. What was it? The Polar Express. The whole thing where they talked about whatever valley it was, where basically they had dead eyes in the initial some of the motion capture technology, and people can tell, and it just has that sort of feeling of going like, there's something that's just not right about this. Same thing with like deep fakes, or even let's say like when you're watching something like The Mandalorian and they showed a de-aging version of Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker. I mean, it looked cool, but you knew it really wasn't him. It just sort of like in your mind, it's like with Harrison Ford, you knew they were de-aging him as Indiana Jones, but it didn't quite seem like Harrison Ford from 45 years ago. So I look at that being like, the technology is always going to be good, but I think it's always going to be just a little bit, same sort of thing where, let's say, I mean, look, Mairead's a very big animation fan. So when I bring up animation to say like this, I don't think you could have AI create a movie like K-pop Demon Hunters as an example. You actually need animators, you need story writers, you need vocal artists. I mean, and that's, so I think
so much needs to come together. And I mean, there's been a huge, it's outside of work, but like there's been such a huge, we need to back artists. We need to keep AI out of, or at least regulated. It seems like there's people want to go blindly into, accepting AI music artists and AI actors. It's like, well, there's all these, people that are waiting to get their start. Like, why are we, opting
But I mean, in another sense, though, if you look at animation, right, just as an example,
animation,
if you are an animator, or and you are drawing something and you're on a project, you could always ask something like an AI assistant and say, hey, what would this character look like with maybe a different hairstyle or a different outfit? And it could render something for you pretty quickly. Now, admittedly, you at the end of the day, you're going to be the one that's going to render. You're going to be the artist doing everything with it to make it look right. But sometimes it's just sort of like, it's like asking an assistant, hey, can you try maybe drawing it like this, or can you try doing it like that? In this case, you're just asking for some sort of rough sort of thing, and it does it. And the other thing is, like I always talk about the tests that I did about 6-7 months ago. Where how fast AI can learn that things it shouldn't do. So as an example, I asked Copilot if it could do a drawing of me as a certain character from a certain animated TV show that just celebrated its 800th episode. And it did. And then it said, hey, do you want to do it with Homer and Marge? And it suddenly did Homer and Marge. And I was like, this is really cool. And then it said, do you want to do it with Bart and Lisa? I'm like, oh, even better. Get the whole family there, right?
Sure.
Copilot then said, I can't do it. That would violate copyright and violate and I was very, very happy with that it did that at that point. So now if you try asking that question, it won't do it. Long story short, I printed out the image of me with Homer and Marge on my refrigerator. And I'm like, this is really cool. I'm drawn as this character. I always wanted something like this. My nieces show up here. They're like, what's that? I'm like, what do you mean, what's that? Well, they're both artists. And they're like, you can't take that off the refrigerator. That
you could have asked us.
Work. So I thought that was very, very telling, So I'm feeling for the future. My nieces are 18 and 13. If they know what this is, and they can very much can tell when something's done by AI. I think at the end of the day, again, I'm not as worried as maybe the press says I should be worried, maybe. But again, I just feel all it's going to do is assist somebody. It's not there to replace somebody. It never was.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I say all the time is that I use it truly. I draft an email and then I ask it to polish the email that I've put together. Or to your point, the fantastic output for meeting notes now that Teams provides is like that saves me so many hours. Like there's just a time savings there that it's the perfect way to utilize AI, and get used to it, and it saves me time.
Well,
it gets me more familiar with it. And I'm not, I don't, it's more of the, hey, does this email look good versus me, not that I would ever be bothering Art, but, after a call, hey, Art, can we confirm, follow-up notes? And, it's more of just, hey, I have this, I added what if something stuck out and I already had the email up, this is already was added. But for the most part, it's like, okay, and it captures, who said it at what time. Like it's insanely helpful. And it's just the speed of being able to, hey, does this look good? Oh, yep, that draft is perfect. You can send it along. Okay. And then it's so much faster than like waiting for somebody to be over from a meeting. Like, hey, are you free now? Like, so yeah.
Well, I'll give another example or two just of things that have helped out. Number one, I will say people do ask me a good deal about, can I review something? Because sometimes they've said to me, is what you're writing, is that what you're writing or is it Copilot? I think we just lost Emily.
I know, I was about to say.
So
okay.
We've lost her video. So anyway, this was not caused by AI, mind you. This is caused by something else. So the two things I was going to say is, number one, people do ask me a lot to read their drafts, whether it's a draft for an email or draft for Copilot, and certainly because people do research on Copilot. So they ask me, hey, can you verify this? And so then I'll do some additional search of different information. The other thing I like about Copilot a lot is the research agent, because what it can do, it can give you a lot of research fairly quickly that otherwise would take a long time to compile after doing a long web search. So I find that to be very helpful. Sometimes, AI certainly can give you some of the steps faster in certain ways, though typically speaking, when I get an AI answer, I'll always click on the reference link just to verify it before I do anything. I'm not going to send it out to a client. I'm not going to go from that way. But certainly I do see more and more, someone will say, hey, I just was asking Copilot how to do this, and they'd get the answer from Copilot. Now, immediately, if you click on the links, look at the references, you'll see there's videos, you'll see there's other sorts of things. But just from a time-saving point of view, one of the big things with Copilot that I like, I don't know enough people know you can do this, but in Outlook, as an example, have you ever been, on an email, you're the last person on an email that people have bounced around maybe several dozen times, and they ask you to do something, and you're going like, what are they actually asking me to do? Where do I need the email to do this? Just say, hey, Copilot, can you tell me what tasks I need to do? Copilot can run through it, analyze it. Here's what you need to do from this. And instead of spending a half hour going like, what am I looking for? Suddenly you're there.
Where was I?
Yeah.
And, so that I find to be very useful. Another great use case. One of the things that we've been deploying recently in-house is Contact Center. I know sounds like I'm doing advertising, but I'm also excited about these products because of what they can do to enhance experience. So Contact Center is an enhancement to Microsoft Dynamics CE, CRM CE, customer engagement. And one of the really cool things it does is it helps create a knowledge base of articles. So we have been using CRM, Microsoft CRM, for years. It's been around for over 20 years now. And we've had so many cases in there that people that are help desk technicians have done over the years. And we always said, wouldn't it be great to create an actual set of knowledge articles about this here, right? And so I was talking with the person, then I said, yeah, but we don't have time to do it, whatever. So I said, okay, let's try something. So I created a sandbox copy of our environment, because you don't want to do this in production, obviously. I mentioned that for those that are thinking about doing it, don't do this at home. If you're going to do it, on a sandbox. Anyway, so I went through it and I said, okay, let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and say, okay, using the agents that come with this, can I use a knowledge agent to create these articles? And over 2 days, it created, I think it was 2,000 plus articles out of 10, 20,000 number of cases over the years. And most of them were really good. Certainly some had to be vetted here and there, which basic things like that, but they were easy to read. They had the references to the cases that it was referred to. So if somebody wanted to go into the customer service portal for Q Associates and type a question about like, hey, I wonder how do I do this before they call someone, they might actually be able to get the information they need right there on the screen based on the article. And that was 2 days versus something that might have taken several months.
Yep. Yep.
But it does lead me to something. Go ahead.
No, it's a perfect use case. Like that is the perfect use case.
But it does lead me to one thing. And I think this is also going to be a reckoning with AI this year. And it needs to be done. And something, again, I've talked with Microsoft about this. I've even talked with people outside of Microsoft with it. One of the big things about Copilot and other AI engines is the cost, the unseen costs. Now, before we're talking about environmental type things, states like New Jersey and I'm sure like New York certainly have seen our electric bills go up because of the increased use of AI, because the companies that use it aren't necessarily paying for it. It's coming back to the consumers on one way. That's one of those hidden costs. But the other hidden cost is this whole idea of credit, and the whole idea that for every agentic AI uses up a lot more energy, it uses up a lot more resources. So one of the interesting things that I've seen is a lot of companies will end up giving you a lot of AI tools for free. What they won't tell you is if you use those AI tools, you're going to have to pay a consumption cost or a credit cost.
Yeah.
So as an example, with that great tool I was just telling you that created those articles, right? So if you are a Microsoft Dynamics CE customer and you use Dynamics CE Enterprise, you get something known as 1,000 Copilot credit units per month per user. So we have, let's say, 100 users, right? So that means we get 100,000 a month. That 2-day process using that agent, fantastic stuff, took up 120,000 credits. So one of the things that you have to understand is that you can very quickly, using agentic AI, go through your credits. And that can become a cost center that you didn't know existed. So that's one of the big things to consider. You don't really get that with, let's say, Microsoft Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot. But when you start using agentic AI and it starts doing some of the heavy add-ons, it doesn't make a difference if you're using Copilot or ChatGPT or any of the other engines, stuff like that. There is that hidden cost. And I'd like to make sure that customers know about this. Say, okay, before you do this, before you start pushing heavy into the agentic area, just make sure you know that you're going to be incurring a cost. Now, admittedly, a lot of the agentic stuff, you may be incurring that cost at an initial build, when it builds an LLM or when it builds a knowledge base or when it does whatever you want it to do. And routinely, it might not use all that much, but you do have to remember there may be an upfront cost. And I think that's something that a lot of people, there will be discussions about. And one of the things I talked with Microsoft about is saying, hey, you have different models for this. So if you have Microsoft Fabric, there's different licensing. If you have GitHub, there's different licensing. If you have Microsoft 365, there's different licensing. And I said, really, at some point, there has to be some sort of consolidation, because we work with Microsoft. Microsoft licensing isn't the easiest thing on a typical day. Now you're adding Copilot to it and AI to it, Azure AI Foundry, which is a big consumption cost. A lot of cool stuff you can do with it. But again, to do all the cool stuff, you're going to have to pay for it. And that's one of those things where I'm very much hoping that Microsoft at some point, and other companies as well, come up with a better estimation model, because that's one of the things that, you have to realize is if the big companies are getting lots of tax credits and are able to use, let's say, 3 Mile Island like Microsoft is, which to this day still sort of rings kind of odd in my mind because I was a kid when the 3 Mile Island incident happened. But again, it's, someone's going to have to pay for it. At the end of the day, if the big companies aren't going to pay for it, it's going to be consumers. It's going to be end users or end users companies. So it's something to consider, is that there is a hidden cost. So that's one of the things I hope that gets addressed in the next year as well. Because my big concern is people start using it, they see how expensive it is. Nope, we're not going to use it.
Yep. And you bring up a very good point. I'll put on my my project management hat and say, this is the reason why strong requirements in discovery and working with your partners to understand what the costs are going to be for implementation and operational use of products is so important, so that you can make that informed decision. Because when you go through all that work and then you end up tearing it out of the environment because the ongoing costs are more than what you anticipated, then you've got rework costs. So I happen to agree with understanding full cost models before moving forward.
Yes, customers always want to know what it's going to be up front. If you tell them and then they get a big bill, they don't like it. You want to make sure the more they know up front, the better. They'd rather get the bad news at the beginning than bad news in the middle.
Yep.
And I know that AI is so new that how would we have known that its path would have taken such an accelerated, such a quick growth? But especially with what worries me are how you bring up, like, you wish that they would, or hope that there's a different, model of consumption with the credits and whatnot. It's just baffling. It's baffling to me that it was set up it's going through with it, because it feels like it's not going to waste people's money, but it's like, well, how do people know how it's going to affect them, and are they making the right choice with it? Is it like you had said, Emily, with the whole reworking thing, like, how would it, if they're just going to change the system in 6 months and then what then? It's crazy to me that it's not, I guess, and things change so rapidly in tech, so how can they necessarily predict what model they'll use? But I think they don't have a concrete or a more, I don't know, friendly model that is more
one of the interesting things is, as I'm sure Emily can tell you as well, is that we've worked with Microsoft for, was it close to 30 years, I guess, between us, each of us, I guess 60 years or so combined, just not putting any, trying to say that as like, oh, this is a badge of honor, but Microsoft licensing has been known to change, and licensing with every company has been known to change so much that I think it's a type of thing where, like, if you go, people just used to it, and it's the frustrating thing is to be in a room with people from Microsoft and you bring up licensing, they're going like, yeah, we know it's a problem, we're trying to fix it. Another 2 years later, you talk to people from Microsoft, we're still trying to fix it. And it's just, again, I'm not trying to say it's just Microsoft, because there's other companies as well. It's just, licensing is always a big thing. That it's been confusing for years. I mean, at one point, I remember, what was it, between about the NT Windows 2000 or so, they got rid of like the licensing manager service because it was never able to do things accurately. And it was just something where it's just, it's end of the day became sort of a sort of like an honor code model or something like that, where basically, okay, you're going to purchase this many, you're only going to use this many, you have to show us your certificate if you have it, and that's it. So it sounds crazy to think, but anyone that's actually worked on, let's say, a Windows server in Azure and has dealt with like remote desktop licensing, you'll see it's a pool of number. It's out there. The client may have only purchased 10, but it has something like 10,000 in there by default. So that's the whole sort of thing. We're trusting that you're only going to use those 10. So now with consumption-based stuff, well, guess what? You don't have to worry about that. You know exactly what they're using, and you can now bill them for that. So consumption-based billing is better for a tech company point of view, but it's not as easy for a company, for an end user to estimate what that cost is necessarily going to be.
Claire's Cupcakes wants agentic AI added in.
But again, this is one of the things I think is very interesting is one person say, hey, it's the Wild West right now for the AI. Well, I think it's very apropos that Microsoft is calling, the idea of any firms that are doing this and that are on what used to call the bleeding edge, frontier firms, because that's really what we are on. We're on the frontier of something. This is just the beginning. This is before there's been any regulations, any laws, any a lot of things that maybe we should be thinking about. Maybe the cart is being put before the horse a little bit. And that's a bit of my concern as well. Same sort of way where this big overpromise. And that's why people think right now, maybe AI is a bubble, because, there was this huge promise of what AI could do, but AI is not there yet. People think of AI from science fiction. We were talking a little before about old technology that you don't want to get rid of. So on my desk, I actually have a replica of HAL 9000. And HAL 9000 is from 2001: A Space Odyssey. For those that don't know, because I'm not going to assume that everyone's seen it like they did when I was 20 or 30 years old. But the idea behind that is essentially you had an AI that was asked to do something against its programming and essentially had a nervous breakdown and ended up basically murdering its crew. And that's what people think AI is, but that's not what AI is. AI is really supposed to be that assistant that's just, it's supposed to help you the same way, again, you had a human assistant. But, just something, just some food for thought.
Yeah, and something, I guess, just a summary statement for part of this, too, for people who are afraid that, companies are going to have it take over the world. There is a cost associated with all of this, to your point, that you have to have deep pockets to just pull the Band-Aid off and let it go to the Wild West. Like it's expensive. So, I think that's something for people to take into consideration. I know, like, I pay for a Premier license for ChatGPT, and it's, $25 a month or whatever it is. How many people actually want to spend that just to say, polish my emails? It's not a low cost once you start getting into development and corporate use. That's prohibitive to some organizations fully implementing what they would want to use AI for. And I'll go back to the use cases. I think organizations, and as they want to learn to adopt AI, they're going to have to look at where does it have the most impact, where's the highest ROI to introduce AI into the environment to offset repeatable tasks so that those individuals can go spend that time doing something different and let AI cover those repeatable task things. So I think truly expansion to some consideration, that cost will be a factor out there.
Well, one of the other big things I'll say this, as you bring up cost and you bring up that sort of unforeseen cost, one of the big products that Microsoft released in the last 2 years was Security Copilot. But the cost, when you estimated it out, basically you'd have to make a decision. Do I want to use Security Copilot? Do I want to hire a CISO? Do I want to, have someone in my tech department do this? Or do I just want to have Copilot do it, even though I know Copilot might have to be double checked? What Microsoft did in the last year, and it's coming to fruition now, is they've included Security Copilot with Microsoft 365 E5 licensing. So suddenly, if you're an enterprise client, you can get that suite of products that can help you out, that can help your CISO out, help you out your department, repeatable tasks, or give you the information from a security point of view, so you don't, so it will offset some of that spend. I think that's a really good idea. So it does make me wonder, and it also makes me hopeful that maybe some of the AI companies are starting to say, hey, maybe there are certain things that we should include with these costs. So I mean, like Microsoft has come out with different models for Copilot, for different size companies. But to your point, most companies that I've worked with, maybe 4 or 5 users start with it, and that's it. And then they decide, is it going to be worthwhile to us before they start building more and more? And then, of course, it's asking for people that can build agents for them. They realize that maybe not as many people can build as many agents as they think, because they think they like the idea of, they hear about Copilot Studio Lite, something for an end user to build, and they realize, well, maybe it's not as easy as that. I mean, I'm not trying to badmouth, I'm not trying to say it can't do it, but I am saying you still need to have human intervention. And at the end of the day, that's the big thing. So one question I actually have for you, Emily, is I don't know if you started working with it yet, but I know Microsoft certainly, speaking of use cases, came out with something in the past few months called Dragon Copilot, specifically for the healthcare industry. And I was wondering if maybe you had any experience or any thoughts about it.
No, but I was just talking about this 2 weeks ago, actually, because somebody brought it up and I was like, no, but we need, I need to look into it. But we were actually talking about that. Dragon is so massive in healthcare. So having Copilot associated to that is just going to be a time reduction. Again, it's there to support and assist physicians. So I'm excited to actually get to play around with it a little bit.
Can you tell us a little bit more about Dragon and what Dragon does and how it will be doing it? Because I'm sure people want to hear about the healthcare thing. And I know that Mairead and I are not as familiar with Dragon as you are, of course.
Yeah, so Dragon's a transcription service for physicians. So it allows you to transcribe into Epic and things like that. So the Copilot piece is going to be able to lighten that burden even more, where you can do different shorthands and different ways that physicians speak, which Copilot's going to be able to take that and transcribe it into the actual EMR. Wow. So Dragon as a whole was just a simplistic transcription service. The Copilot adds on some of those additional features and functionalities that allow physicians to note take even faster. So a lot of people, what they don't realize is when you leave your physician, your one doctor's appointment, that's probably an hour's worth of notes that physician has to take. Mm-hmm. And I spent the day at the local community hospital today doing the imposition of ashes for the patients and families there. And the chaplain was telling me that she actually has to take notes and put them into the medical records of those that she visits. and has to, so she's spending time
Wow,
note taking as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's a chaplain. That's somebody there who's just to provide support, but it's mandated because she interacted with the patient that she has to actually transcribe notes into the patient record. So anything we can do to alleviate the amount of administrative burden that happens within our medical system, again, it's not taking away the chaplain, it's not taking away the physician, but what AI is doing is alleviating the time that they're sitting at a computer, which if you think about it, if they don't have to sit in front of their computer for an hour, they can go spend time with patients. They can go do just research.
Exactly.
So yeah, so it is amazing. I think what we're going to see, you know, again, from a support perspective and admin perspective in, you know, not just healthcare, but all of the key verticals that are just administratively heavy.
But, you know, one thing it will do as well, just thinking about it, is it will help pharmacists out because they won't have to decode all that doctor's handwriting as much.
That's right.
Because that's it'll tell you exactly what the doctor meant.
That's right. Well, one question I have for you is, so obviously we're tech, you know, I've got the tech background, you're a tech organization. How do you think we really get those outside of tech to understand and use and adopt to AI? What are some thoughts that you have?
Well, I was going to say, Mairead, I think you pulled a deck of cards out someplace that you might want to.
I was going to, yeah, I mean, I think, and again, I'm not as technologically involved in the projects that we do here at Q, and not to diminish any of the work that I do, but I do think that Copilot is such a huge resource for the implementers and for the salespeople, anybody, for me included. But I'm not using it as much as, you know, take these numbers and clean the, not that I don't know if you would necessarily ask Copilot to clean the data, but I do think some of these, like some of the little notes, so it's, you know, a deck of cards featuring prompts that help customers unlock the power of Microsoft 365 Copilot. The backs are very nice. They've got, I don't know if it would, I don't know if it'll, there we go.
Well, they look like playing, basically they're playing cards.
And then it's got essentially,
but on the face is where the big things are. So
open, let's see, I don't know if it might not be.
Well, why don't you read out the card instead of
I didn't know if it would show
the
up.
prompt on the card.
Like a
Open Copilot chat in Teams. Can you create a table with all the open items discussed on this, based on this discussion in this chat in the last time frame?
So as an example, just again, the team stuff, you join a call late, you ask to summarize, it'll get you up to date very quickly. But I guess the bigger question as far as how you engage people that aren't necessarily convinced. Well, I think things like a deck of cards, or as I started to say before, gamification, the idea where basically you look at it sort of like, you know, with anything, you say, what's the best way to learn AI? Well, just use it. But if people don't know what to ask it, don't know this sort of thing, you have to give them examples. Number one, use cases, but also number two, just sort of make it fun. Sort of just say like, you know, sort of, again, you have a deck of cards. Okay, let's just try this prompt, or let's try that prompt. Sometimes I found, you know, just talking with it. Again, just talking about it. Podcasts are up, and we talk about it a lot. Doing workshops for customers. One of the big things I've noticed when I do workshops is I take a look. First, I start through Microsoft 365 Admin Center. And again, I know I'm going too techie on this here, but in there you can see what the engagement is. And when you see the engagement at the beginning of the workshop is 0, and then you see the engagement by the end of the workshop is 100%, and you check back later and you see it's 100% just by talking to people and showing people what it can do and showing people how easy it is and how it can make your life better. That's one way to do it. I don't think commercials help. I think, you know, showing big advertisers help. I think actually bringing a human being into there that has worked with it and knows how to do it. And I'm not trying to shoot my own horn or advertise for myself, but I'm saying that it's just, you need to have somebody there that can talk about it, that can say, okay, this is how I can do this. So one of the things I've noticed, and this is the thing that is very interesting. So when I started talking about Copilot, I'm one of those people that tries to do demos during my presentations.
Yeah.
And as you know, with demos at presentations, 75% of the time there's going to be a glitch. But you know, I tried anyway. And, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I always feel when it fails that people are going to be like, oh my God, that guy's the worst. How could he keep doing this? But the fact of the matter is that they see the fact that in technology and as a tech, that guess what? It doesn't always work. And then we can show them a way of like, okay, well, if it doesn't work, this is the other way of doing things. Or I have a plan B and this is how the plan B works. And by going through that, it seems to very much more not only humanize tech, but also humanize the technology, realizing that, hey, wait a minute, this technology isn't perfect. But if it isn't perfect, and like human beings are not perfect, maybe we can find a different way to use the technology to get out what we need out of it when sometimes it doesn't work. Again, people love buying technology. I think it's going to solve all the problems. It's not. It still has to rely on us, these human beings here, what we have at our noggins here to do the next step. My biggest thing is outreach, and I do like the idea of gamification. I know it sounds weird saying like you could create a board game where you could talk about, okay, we're going to do the game of AI, so like the game of life or like Monopoly. But again, it's the idea to just give people ideas of what they can ask, what they can do with it. How can you use Copilot or AI to help you get out of jail free, right? So, I mean, it's just, something like that. It's sort of like, real estate or whatever, just using the Monopoly example. But again, it's the sort of, you land on a different square. The square tells you, okay, we'll try this question and see what happens.
Yep. No, I love it. And I love the idea of gamification to bring people into it. If I'm completely honest, I use it a lot for, hey, I've got these ingredients. Can you come up with 7 breakfast ideas for me?
Go, right?
Yes.
It's a great way to get to know it. Plus, the AI gets to know you. When I log in now and I say, because I still say good morning to Chat GPT. I'm not sure you're supposed to, but I say good morning to it. It asks me if I'm looking for Buffalo Bills information, if I'm looking for podcast, if we're doing consulting work today, or am I just having coffee with hubsters, which is my nickname for my husband. So it's just gotten to know me through the interactions. I think that's cool.
Question in my mind: what type of pizza topping does hubster like?
Yeah.
Anchovies.
Okay. Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah. We always order 2 separate pizzas in my house. But well, I could talk about this topic all day, but the one thing I do want to come back to is that we've also said the words human connection so many different times, and there's a human at this. And to your point, people buy the technology, 4 people use it, it never gets anywhere, and that's because of the human element. Change is hard, so there needs to be adoption and change management and training that goes into AI. And I think that's true for even somebody who's not in corporate and wants to get to know how to use it. Reach out to those of us who are using it and, let us show you some fun things to do. Yeah. And just have fun with it. Like there's the human element.
I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, it's not really a companion, it's an assistant. And I like to emphasize that because certainly there have been people talking about using it that way, but really that's what it comes down to. It basically is everything an assistant would do except fetch coffee. And truthfully, you should never ask your assistant to fetch coffee anyway. So that's.
I used to be a production assistant. I got my coffee orders right.
You did. I'm just saying, it's I didn't. So there you go. I've told any number of interns that work for me, if anyone ever tells you to get to make them coffee or to get them coffee, you just tell them the CTO told you they get their own. So that's
I like that.
I'm not it's you're here to work. You're not here to fetch coffee. And it's the way I take a look at it. There's nothing as demoralizing. You get an internship and suddenly that's what they want you to do as opposed to, because let's face it, you get an internship, you want to actually do some work and learn this stuff. And I always tell people coming to me, the one thing I'm going to tell you is, so you learn all this great stuff in college. Well, the real world of IT isn't like college. I'm going to tell you that right now. And you're going to see it's not nearly this great, beautiful sort of, and that's sort of the thing about it is that the thing about IT is, and I think part of the reason why you or I or other people get into this sort of stuff is because you love solving problems. And the fact of the matter is the only thing that a virtual assistant is going to help us do from our point of view is it might help us solve a problem faster, or it might give us other ideas. It's like almost sort of like a a sort of like a quick brainstorming sort of thing. But let's say you maybe don't have a colleague to speak to, you can go through that. So it's sort of like a high-powered search engine, but it gives you just a little bit more and a little bit more insight based on the questions that you ask it. And again, it's to me, that's the valuable part about it. One of the big things with Azure was when it suddenly started integrating into a site into Azure. So if Azure got an error, you could just type the information to Copilot, click on the button, say, "Hey, Copilot can help you solve this." You click on the button, and Copilot will then take a look at the metadata, which you can't see, and because Microsoft protects it, and it'll then say, "Oh, yeah, you had a typo right here."
Yep.
Could have spent 5 hours looking for that typo, never finding it. You finally type it here. Great, I solved the problem. Boom, I can go to my next step. So that to me is,
Have you ever written code and had an accidental space at the end of a line where you shouldn't have a space, and you spend, I don't know,
trailing or leading
days?
Space. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, look, how many people have taken an Excel document, tried importing a place or a comma-separated value file, right? You have a leading space or trailing space, right? Just ask Copilot or ask your ChatGPT, and it'll say, "Oh yeah, there's a leading space right there." I'm like, great. Now you're starting to sound like that smart Alec assistant that I always had looking at this stuff for me, except now it's a smart Alec virtual assistant.
Smart Alec Copilot companion.
Yeah, you have to be very modest when it comes to AI or any assistants. Remember, they're not there trying to one up you. They're there to help you. So that's the
And one thing I say, and I've said it for a few years now, and I'm actually on a customer site where I can't say this enough at this time. I'm like, you don't have any technical projects. You have business projects that are going to utilize tech to solve problems. So let's put that lens on. And I think AI is there, to your point, help us brainstorm ways to solve the business problems through the use of tech. And so I fully appreciate the spirit there for sure. But
so one question again I have for you just quickly here. Do you actually talk with AI, or do you actually chat with the keyboard with AI? Have you gotten to the point where you actually speak with it?
No, I'm still using my keyboard.
Maybe speaking into
I've actually spoken with, and I've done live demos, hit or miss with Copilot. It's a very interesting experience, and I certainly recommend trying it out. The thing I will say is it keeps getting better and better as far as just not just recognizing who you are, but also just being able to have a conversation with you that makes sense, which is great. The translation stuff, it's still hit or miss. I know a lot of people talk about the live translation. It's just, I'm hoping one day it'll be there. It's still not close to perfect. You still actually need a human being there to actually tell you what someone's saying. But there are cool technology that it's doing that's only going to evolve and get better. So that's the other thing to realize is that, it's at this point, you're not really going to be an early adopter if you start using it. You're sort of like a mid adopter. So, because it's going there, it's just, don't believe the commercials. Don't get intimidated by it. AI is not there to be, again, it's not there to replace you. It's there to help you. And it's theoretically what it's going to do. It's going to make your work life a lot better. The only problem is like with other technology, when people just got a computer or something like that, is it doesn't mean you're necessarily going to get more days off. It just means you're going to be able to do more work faster, not necessarily disconnect as much as you like. So even though Mairead is disconnected from TikTok and she's off social media, that doesn't mean that when she's on vacation, someone won't be messaging her saying, "Hey, what's going on with this project? Can you help me send an email?" So.
And I think like many things, like, us as humans, we are naturally going to be scared of things that's the unknown, unless you're a psychopath with a break mentally. So I think it's just the ignorance or intimidation that comes out of the intimidation of AI kind of creates the atmosphere of, oh, well, it's going to take over my job. Well, do you know it's really going to take over your job? From the point that you made, Emily, I saw my face in real time put together in my head how, sure, maybe some big companies would, if they really wanted to, they could make agenic employees, but the cost of that, I never factored in the cost of how that would, what that would scale up to with even just one person for a full year versus trying to replace a whole team. So that was something that I was like, oh, okay, maybe we will be okay. Maybe we'll be okay for a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to be okay.
Just a follow-up point. This is my last point
Yeah.
to make is that when I talk about the idea that we could do stuff faster and work faster, it means that an individual employer, individual user who's good at their job and who's using something like Copilot or ChatGPT, it means by them using it, if they could do more faster and more accurately, it means they become even more valuable as an employee. So my thing to people that think they're going to replace AI, think about what it can do to make you more valuable. Think about tasks that it could do that could make your day easier and could make you accomplish things a lot faster. Not going to say the thing like Office Space, like think about it. It could do your TPS reports for you, so you don't have to worry about the guy bugging you about getting them in, right? So that sort of thing, it can make you a more valuable employee, and that's one of the key takeaways. At least, maybe I haven't mentioned it enough today or really mentioned to this point, but that's one of the key takeaways I'd like to at least mention about AI. That's one of the key things to realize. That's something that really has to be emphasized more, especially to those that are worried that they're going to be replaced. You're not going to be replaced. You're going to be enhanced in a sense, but not like cyborg laser eyes or anything like that. We're just talking about being replaced by faster.
I agree. I mean, you get like the technical engineer who just needs a 2-line, Python code to bring something together. You can have Copilot create that for you now, and you've gotten further and more, and great.
Yeah, I'll just say I'm a bean counter by day, and occasionally I have to do a VLOOKUP table every now and again. It's not something I touch very often, and a quick 30-second conversation with Gemini Live is a great way to refresh yourself on those.
Yeah.
Something else I demoed last year, and it's only getting better, is from SQL Server Management Studio, just, standard database management tool from Microsoft. If you connect it with AI Foundry, Azure AI Foundry, you can suddenly start doing, you can start querying it without knowing how to query. You start asking questions, and I commented the use case for it is first of all, you can have people who don't know how to query a database use it. But secondly, I thought it was a great way to train junior SQL DBAs or SQL database administrators, just saying, who maybe aren't as familiar with some of the codes or select star or the joins or things like that. What it can do is you can ask it to do it. And if it gets you the data that's right, it'll also show you the background of it so you can see how it's thinking about it. Again, Azure AI Foundry, there's a credit cost, but still, if you think about it, you might actually be able to help to train and help to save time on training with your new technicians as well, and just users in general. I know that was one of the use cases Microsoft talked about last year, was the idea of, maybe we don't necessarily maybe we can help use Copilot to enhance education as well. And that's a possible thought as well. Think about it. If you're a teacher, you don't always get an aide, you don't always get an assistant, but hey, maybe you can have Copilot that might be able to help you grade your papers faster, so you can get to teach more. Very simple.
Absolutely. Love it. All right. Well, I could, like I said, I can talk on this topic all day. I see it just so relevant right now, helping people to address their concerns, whether that AI is going to take over my job or AI is going to take over the world. I think bringing to light things like how much it costs for, average companies to be able to implement some of these services, we're probably not quite there yet. We probably won't be for quite some time, because there are some definitive considerations that need to be made for sure. So
that's why people like us are out there, Emily.
That's right. That's why we get up every morning and, chat with ChatGPT and Copilot and see how everybody's doing that. Do you guys say please and thank you when you ask Copilot or AI to do something?
It's like Alexa. Like I've been saying, I feel like that's even for like years. Yeah. Like little robots I feel like that they've had, or like in Disney or something, like you just like, thanks. Like I'll wave like, have a good day, bye. Yeah. Like
people will see me talking with computers before they can talk back. So
when Amazon Echoes started automatically listening for a follow-up, that's when you definitely start listening or saying please and thank you.
All I know is I've had to apologize to Alexa a lot over the years for things my nieces have said to it. And I think anybody who's had children of certain ages in their lives have had to apologize to their AI assistants at times. So that's all I'm going to say on that topic.
Oh my gosh. All right. So as we wind down the conversation, end the conversation, last question for you guys. Is there a piece of older tech that you can't live without, you just can't give up? Anything that you're still out there using?
Yeah, I have a universal remote control for my screening room. That's several years old, but it certainly still works. I'm sure I could do it off of my phone at this point. In fact, I know I could do it off of my smartphone instead of using the universal remote control. I'm just sort of stuck with it, I guess you could say. And the fact that I can still program with newer technology and it still works is,
cool.
kind of,
That's pretty fun.
I mean, again, it's not necessarily, an old flip phone or anything like that, which really isn't that old, I don't think, at least not to us, but maybe it is to Mairead, but certainly.
My first phone was I think we still have somewhere, we have all of like the Envies and the chocolates, whatever we were using, like whatever phone it was. But I know, I think I still have all like our DSs, the Game Boys that I begged my parents for.
Yeah.
But I still use my Nintendo Switch that I got 10 years ago. Or maybe 9 years ago. I think it's like, I know they just released the second one, and I've been thinking like, oh, well, maybe I could get it, but like, it's not necessarily old tech, but I mean, I have records, but no record player. So maybe I need to invest in a record player.
You mentioned media. I should point out that, so last year, one of my big projects I did when I was upgrading my screening room was to actually create a media server. So, ripping all my CDs, ripping all my Blu-rays and DVDs. And one thing I will say, number one, I'm a little attached more to the physical media. I will say this on anyone who's ever watched Blu-rays or UHDs, listen to music. The physical media, when you rip them and rip them properly, and you want to keep your physical media afterwards, that way people can't come after you as well for it. It's because that's the whole thing. I mean, the quality is better. It's just the sound's better, the visual's better. It's not even, it's something where if you see it, it's quantifiable in a way. I mean, maybe it's everything you taste in the eye of the beholder, but it's better than anything you're going to get streaming. So that's one thing you talk about old technology. But I do want to tell people that are attached to old technology, especially things like CDs, DVDs, and Blu-rays. I still have some laser discs someplace in a room someplace. I didn't rip those on there, but there's something called disc rot, and it's very important to know about, because I had several Blu-rays and several DVDs that I could not rip, because after a certain amount of time, the actual plastic that those discs are made out of starts to rot from the inside out. It was much more noticeable on laser discs, but it's also happens to Blu-rays, something like that. So if you haven't converted your stuff to digital media and you're thinking about do it sooner rather than later.
Oh shoot!
First thing I'm gonna say. Number two, but if you're good, just you're not an audio file, you're not a video file, and you're good with digital, keep in mind that digital stuff will probably last longer, just because again you don't get that degradation and sort of things. Oddly enough, records, I haven't seen the degradation as much. Admittedly, people used to scratch them all the time. That was one thing, but the plastic records are made out of, I would say, is a lot more durable than what came after. So just something, food for thought, nothing to do with AI, but you were asking about old tech.
Yeah, we thought, well, we're having fun with that. And you got a thumbs up from Ken. And Ken, you actually started this whole topic.
Yeah, it's funny you mention a media server, because you seem like a sci-fi fan, Art. So I went to watch the reboot of Battlestar Galactica on streaming a few weeks ago and realized it's absolutely nowhere. I have to go out and I have to buy the Blu-rays if I want to watch them. Meanwhile, I have every streaming service known to man. So it sent me down this whole spiral of starting my own media server and getting away from some of the streaming services a bit. Just, we have all of these, and the one show I wanted to go and do a rewatch of, it's not even there.
Yeah, no, I mean, and oddly enough, just as you mentioned Battlestar, and shoot, I wish I had one of my Battlestar models right here with me, because I do have several from the original series on there. I noticed one of the things that was on sale, I did not buy it, but was the quote unquote Battlestar Galactica movie from 1978, which I guess really was the pilot for the series, in 4K UHD. And I'm like, that seemed to be one of those things where I'm like, how do they have that in 4K UHD? It's like, I'm sure it looked great.
Shot on film, probably remastered in some way.
I mean, the beautiful John Dystra effects, same guy that did Star Wars, but no, I mean, look, I have my Star Trek, the original series desk mat that I have my mouse and keyboard on. I have several ships just sitting here, stuff like that. My favorite thing on my desk, and again, I probably can't see it because of the You won't be able to see it because of this thing here, but I have a facepalm Will Riker on my desk from Star Trek: The Next Generation. So it's like the best collectible I've ever bought, because there are days in IT, and I know Emily can say the same thing, where you're just like, and just looking at him makes me just feel a lot better. Just puts a smile on my face.
Yeah.
He gets me. He understands me.
Yeah. That's right. Well, thanks for doing that fun kind of wrap up question. But you guys, thank you so much for being here tonight. I enjoyed this conversation. I love talking about this topic. I love bringing the topic to the show that if you're not techie, hopefully you can understand a little bit more about it. We can continue to open the conversation up, because I think that talking about it's really going to be the only way that we address everybody's concerns and get others' feedback and help support the community as a whole. And so thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. A real pleasure.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you.
All right. Well, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, a couple more days, and then a weekend. Thank goodness. And producer Ken, thanks for being here tonight.
You got it.
Thanks for sticking in there. We had some technical challenges when we first got kicked off, but why not?
Thank you, Ken, as well.
It's all good. It's all good. I hope my hope is that the snow goes away and you have a nice mild buffalo spring.
Oh, that's it. Everything was just frozen.
Yeah, it's just frozen.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Thank you guys again. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah. Thanks, you guys. And while we're saying thank you, I want to thank our Community Arts Center. So we've got a new showing coming up behind us. They, through the use of a grant, let us use the Arts Center. So tonight we are in a conference room that is being readied for a new art show that starts tomorrow. So we really appreciate them letting us come in and use the space. It's really, really nice. And we appreciate that community engagement.
Those pieces behind you, those look fabulous from what I can see.
Yeah, it is great. We've got some really cool things here. I think Ken's going to try to show a little bit more, but there's just some really, really cool art pieces that we have in this showing. So we're very fortunate that we can be here.
Cool.
Yeah, it is awesome. All right. Well, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Thank you again for being empowered by authenticity. And I hope everyone has a great rest of the week.